Hi Central, I'm Mandy, and this is my friend Renee. And recently, we've been having a couple of conversations about St. Moses Church.
Yes, we have.
Central recently planted a church in Charles Village, and along the process of that's happened this past year, we realized that there's been sometimes some tension that we've been experiencing as a congregation member and also on staff. Yes. I'm on staff at Central, so we thought we'd share a little bit of how God's been working in that journey with us, in case any of you might be able to relate.
Yes, and I hope that they do. I hope they can relate.
Me too, I think so. Yeah. So Renee, I'm gonna ask you to share a little bit of your story first.
Great. So sometime around January, I realized that I was feeling a lot of the tension about St. Mose. Friends were going, or were praying about going. I felt like we would be losing people. I was feeling this tension a lot. And so one day I sort of decided to take on that tension the way that I typically do. And I went down to Charles Village to prove myself wrong, saying, God, prove me wrong, that this is not just another church plant to a bunch of hipsters. Hipsters being very well dressed, like fashionable, trendy kind of people who are educated and artsy and also socially minded and oftentimes have facial hair. And I thought to myself, I'm going to go down and God can prove me wrong, that Charles Village, a church plant in Charles Village, will not be that. And I went down and that's what I saw. I saw a bunch of hipsters. And I left that day feeling pretty smug about that. Like, well, look, that's exactly what it's going to be, and why do we need that? And on my way back home, I heard two words in my mind. I heard kingdom building. And I started having this conversation with God, like, Lord, kingdom building, a church, anywhere, reaching anybody. Why is that so upsetting to me? Why is it a problem that people may come to St. Mose and hear the good news of Jesus Christ for the very first time? Why is that a problem for me? And I really had to do some of my own wrestling about why I felt like that was a problem, but I committed that day to go back down the next week and pray. And when I went, that next week came, my 9-year-old woke up sick. He had a fever, and I thought, well, he's got a fever. Bundle him up, we're getting in the car, we're going down to Charles Village, and we're gonna pray together. And in that time of us praying together, it was sweet. It was so very, very sweet. And Jacob asked me questions that only a 9-year-old would ask. And as we turned the corner, he had just gotten done asking me, well, where will they have this church, Mom? Where will it be? And we turned the corner and we stopped and we prayed. And we prayed for a place to have church. We prayed for a place that can be a home of worship to St. Mose. And it was right outside of the Single Carrot Theater that we prayed that prayer. And it was a sweet time. And I hadn't had such a sweet time of prayer in a long time before that. And so I committed then to go down to Charles Village and to Remington and Waverly in that area and pray once a week, every week. And so I've been doing that, and it's been amazing. And God has changed my mind, and He's changed my heart, and He has transformed me from being kind of angry and upset and frustrated with this whole church plant to being really excited about St. Mose. And that's something that only God could do, and it's been really sweet.
Thank you.
So you are church staff.
I am
You are on worship team staff, and you are communications, right?
That's correct.
And you have a story about the tension and what God has done in that tension.
Yeah, exactly. Of course, my story is slightly different, but as someone who is on staff here, the planning started a little before January. So I remember a specific conversation in the worship office between myself and Gideon and Ian, I believe in September, when Ian said, you know, as I'm beginning to ask people who might feel called to come to St. Moses, is there anyone on your worship team who you guys would like me to not ask? Is there anyone who's off the table? And Gideon and I kind of exchanged eye contact, and we're able to look at Ian and say, no one is off the table. If you want to ask someone and they feel called, no matter what kind of role they have on our team, they should go.
Right.
And so we said that, but then later God kind of used that conversation to kind of work through some things with me, because as the months went on, it became obvious that several of our worship leaders who I had prayed for and mentored or trained, or just who had been close to my heart for years, were beginning to discern that they felt called to go. And every time I would hear a new name of someone that might be going to St. Mo's, I'd kind of go through this thing where I was like, no, not them. Maybe somebody else, but not them.
Right.
And as time got closer, the list of people from the worship team that were going to St. Mo's became longer. And as it is with all of our program ministries, we depend on our volunteers. We couldn't do what we did without people being involved and committing in a pretty big way to Sunday morning. So kind of looking at the list, and I was beginning to make my schedule for the next round of worship at Central, and St. Moses was going to begin in about a month, and I was starting to delete the people that were on my list that Ian had said were going to St. Mo's. And it was one of those moments where I was like, this can't be, this isn't good. Like, what is panic, full on panic for a couple of moments at least. And I prayed through that, and I confessed, this has now become about me. I don't know how to do what I'm used to doing without these people. And I can honestly tell you that within the next week, I'd gotten 3 calls from people in the congregation who were interested in joining the worship team. And we were losing band members and worship leaders, and 3 of the people who I got calls from wanted to be worship leaders. Before the St. Moses people were out of the seats in the worship center, their roles had been filled. God was faithful. He answered those prayers, and he was saying to me, this isn't about you. This is not about your schedule. And I'm going to do this, and I'm in this. And so once I removed myself and my panic from the situation, I was able to see what God was doing, and how he was using these people in good ways, and how he had other things in mind for me here and for our team here, and that he was working in this.
Well, that's how God works, though, right? When you think, God, this is how it's going to be, obviously. God does something and says, no, it's not obvious. I'm here, and I have a purpose and a plan for this. Come join me in that. And since then, like, the people who have stepped up, the people, the new faces that I'm seeing serving in areas that they weren't serving before, but now are feeling called to and feeling like this is their area of passion. This is amazing.
It is.
I mean, it's a gift.
Right.
I would not have said that in January.
That's right.
But I can say that now.
Right. And we signed on to walk faithfully, and a little bit blindly, with how some of those prayers were going to be answered. And it's been amazing to watch God work.
Because now we look at it and are able to say with clear eyes, it's not really about me and what I want and my people. It's about what God is doing and his kingdom, not just here at Central, but all over.
That's right. That's right. It's amazing. So
yes. Pretty cool.
Thanks, Central.
Thanks, Central.